Rochfort Distillery Coriole White Port Cask South Australian Single Malt Whiskey, the Truth Malters Cask Strength Edition. What's it like? Should you grab one of these? Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. G'day, my whiskey people. Mark here at Whiskey Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, the center of North America, bringing you Rochfort Distillery. Rochfort Distillery from South Australia. This is their Coriole White Port Cask, the Cask Strength Edition, which comes from Truth Malters. They are the importers for Rochfort Distillery here in Canada, and they chose this cask and they jacked it up. They chose Cask Strength, which is 65.1% ABV. And as I mentioned, a Coriole is a vineyard in South Australia, the McLaren Vale district. Anyway, well, this is their white port wine cask. And interesting story, this barrel is over 100 years old, and it has, I believe it's gone from one vineyard to another, shipped to Australia, used in the wine industry for decades, with, I believe, this Coriole white port wine spending a good long time in that barrel before it was emptied and bottled, and then this whiskey went in. A few cool things about this. Beautiful bottle. They took a special care in choosing a really unique cork stopper, and it weighs 150 grams apparently, and it weighs that much because John Rochfort, the story goes, he had a Ziploc bag of coins in his pocket, and he went like this, and he thought, yeah, this is how heavy I want my cork to be. And he gave that to the coin maker and had this struck just like a coin. And this is just amazing. This is probably the coolest coin in the whiskey industry. And I believe this is heavier than the Signet Cask cork stopper, which is also quite heavy, as you know. So do not drop that. Don't throw it. You'll hurt someone. All right, beautiful. And a nice little sort of a placard right on the bottle there, which is neat. And they chose almost a nude label to show off the color of the whiskey, which is awesome. Not much left, so we had 24 people at the club night on Wednesday for the Winnipeg Whiskey Club. Five of our full year membership members were absent that night, so they get a little sample. So now this is all that's left, and we need one more sample for the Winnipeg Whiskey Club full year sample set, which we will auction off this year to the club at the end of the year. Cool. All right, well, let's get that poured, and I'm going to be using my Tuath Irish whiskey glass, and I'm using this because I love the fact that it's flared, and it also does a great job of allowing the whiskey to evaporate and come up to a nice narrow entryway there. So we'll get that poured right away. And then I want to tell you a little bit about Rochfort Distillery and the family. And a quick shout out to, well, the Winnipeg Whiskey Club. Let's check this bottle out. And I'm getting another one of these for myself, so I'll be replacing that. Okay, don't worry. Okay, here we go. And that's about all I need. Little bit left there, so that's good. Yeah, that's enough. Good. About 15, maybe 20 milliliters. All right. There's the tasting mat that I made for the Winnipeg Whiskey Club's Leapfrog Day on Wednesday, February 26, 2020. And we saved the Rochfort for last because of its high ABV, and also because it's just kind of nice to have the premier bottle last. It's quite spirit-led, very, very savory, sweet, very much influenced by the wine. And this is part of what the Rochfort family, John Rochfort especially, is trying to do. Now, pedigree. Let's talk about pedigree. His family also owns the McLaren Vale Distillery. And he himself is a former CEO of the Lark Distillery on Tasmania. So then he opened Rochfort Distillery in 2018. Established 2018. So you're thinking, is this a 2-year-old whiskey? Of course, that is legal in Australia. I think 2 years is all that's needed. But the color, the nose, the palate, none of this tells me that it's 2 years old. So I did some research, and so did some of my Winnipeg Whiskey Club mates, to figure out what this Rochfort Distillery Coriole White Port Cask, full cask strength whiskey, what it was all about. So here's a little bit about the Rochfort Distillery. So the focus of the Rochfort Distillery will be showcasing whiskey aged in South Australian barrels with a rich provenance. So they want their greatest wine, the wine casks, those casks, that's what they want. Single malt, single cask whiskey made at the new distillery won't be ready for at least 3 years. It must be aged for a minimum of 2. So says indaily.com.au, that's where I'm reading from. But the first whiskey bearing the Rochfort Distillery label was released this month, made from the family's private collection of barrels. So there's the key. Now, this post is talking about the Thomas Hardy. What kind of a cask was that? Muscat. Brandy and then Muscat. So that this was their first bottling. That must have been spectacular. And I believe Larry Shane, who is part of the family that's importing with Truth Malters, and his brother Bill, I think they've tried that. All right, anyway, we, the family, have a large collection of privately owned barrels, some of them mature, some very mature, and some not mature yet, John Rochfort says. While we're waiting for this distillery's whiskey to come of age, we are slowly releasing some of our private barrels, all of which were mashed and distilled by the family. So that's great. That's very interesting. And different place, but same family, and I'm okay with that. Canada's okay with that. I know Scotland is pretty particular with exactly where things were distilled. Think about Clynelish and how it changed names twice. So clearly you can see that they are committed. The Rochfort family, John Rochfort, is committed to producing some amazing stuff. And this is clearly old whiskey. And how old? I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this is probably, I don't know, 8 years old? 8 years old, 9 years old, 10. My palate tells me it's about that. Maybe even a bit older. My palate tells me. Of course, Australia has a warmer climate, very much like Amrut, and a little bit more temperate than Amrut, so the temperature doesn't get so hot, but still much hotter than Scotland or Canada, at least on an average temperature basis. Okay. Yes, good. Okay, so let's check out the color first of all. Rochfort Distillery's Coriole White Port Cask. Cask strength at 65.1% ABV. What do you see there for color? What a very golden amber honey hue. So unusual, so rich and bright orange. And if this were from Johnny Walker, you would say, oh, it's colored. However, this is absolutely natural. And it's gorgeous, and I could stare at that all day long. Beautiful. For sure, it's unchill filtered and natural in color. I don't think it says anything here. No, not there. And here we talks about the Truth Malters little note there, which is Truth Malters Chapter 4. Truth Malters. The truth is, that's their series of single casks, imported by Truth Malters Limited. You may want to get hold of Truth Malters if you are a liquor board or a liquor store here in Canada. Truth Malters, just search for that on Facebook or on Google. I think it's truthmalters.com. And you can write to them, Suite 260, 2323, 32nd Avenue Northeast, Calgary, Alberta, T2E 6ZE, Canada. All right, there you go. Price-wise, this is, in fact, if this were my own bottle, this would be the second most expensive bottle that I would have ever purchased at $420 Canadian. So, okay, a brief look at the legs, and then we will check out the nose. Maybe a quick little sniff first. It really smells now. So at first I said that it was spirit led. Now I'm saying spirit led, but I'm smelling old single malt whiskey. Isn't that interesting? So however old that is, I have no idea. Could be 20 years old. No idea. Could be 10. Could be 8. Could be 6. I don't think it's less than that. Okay, so the legs, as I said, let's have a look at those. Okay, the legs. Very slow first legs. Extremely slow. They have not come anywhere near the bottom yet. And quite showy secondary legs, just beginning to start. Still beating at the top of the lip, but you can see they follow the original path. Gorgeous. Can you see all that? 2 reasons: high ABV, and secondly, dissolved former content. So there will be extra sugars from the wine casks. In addition to the little bit of sugar that comes through distillation, and the regular sugars that you get from the cask itself. Okay, so the nose. It comes off slightly like a bit of that sort of cognac type of a nose. So big dried fruits, dried Thompson seedless raisins. Straight up cognac nose. In fact, it smells like Rémy Martin cognac. Then there's a little bit of spice, some white pepper. Some slightly savory fruits here. So a little bit of honeydew. A little bit of Saskatoon berry. Baked in a pie. Again, I've mentioned this before in a different whiskey, you get a little bit of an almondine-like note as the seeds inside those Saskatoon berries end up roasting and makes just a amazing almondine, slightly marzipan note. Yes, crushed almonds for sure. Lightly toasted. Some good vanilla notes. Vanilla bean. And if someone stuck this under my nose and said, "How old is this?" I don't think I would say it's less than 18 years old. Smelling this now. Now, the neck pour, the first pour, a little bit restricted, a little bit restrained, a little bit spirit-led. I also wasn't using this lovely Tuath whiskey glass, which I love because it really does a nice job of letting some of the alcohol go away from your nose. Oh, beautiful. Heavy bottle. There is a ginger candy note in the background there. A little bit of a toasted oaky note, like warm fireside. The wood that's right next to the fire pit that you're getting ready to throw on the fire, and those have just that nice little warm toasted oaky note. Beautiful. Well, time to taste it. First off, a big cheers to Bill and Larry Shane and all of the Shanes, to John Rochfort and to the Winnipeg Whiskey Club. Cheers, everybody. Big ABV, but it's balanced with unreal rich sweetness, making you think that it's less than 65 and more like about 58, 56, 54 even. It starts off beautifully sweet tart. In fact, slightly like sweet tart candies. A little bit of bright icing sugar. And then as you kind of roll it on your tongue, fruit puddings, lots of vanilla, those Saskatoon berries, a little bit of this cantaloupe note coming through in the palate as well. Lots of vanilla. The finish is a little bit spicy, a little bit dry, but quite sweet and thick, and I can still taste it everywhere in my mouth. Hint of that zesty oak. It's a little bit zesty, a little bit sherbety. Peach skins. Kumquat citrus fruits. Those Thompson seedless raisins coming through. Quite nice. Well, it's time to add a bit of water. I didn't try adding any water at the Winnipeg Whiskey Club when I tried this, so let's add a little bit. And I want to add about 10 drops to this little amount. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Around about 10 milliliters left, and I added less than a milliliter of water. Yes, I want to let that settle for just a minute, and I want to tell you about what's coming up next in the channel. Now, there will be more videos coming out that were the Whiskey of the Year 2020. So, for example, the runner-up, Naked Grouse, that'll be coming up. We'll have the Canadians, the two brewers, and the Alberta Premium Cask Strength, the Wiser's 23, and we'll have another North Star coming up, Fetter Cairn from North Star, that likely would have been my number one independent of the year, but I just didn't have enough of them. So those are coming up. We'll have a Taiwan face-off between two distilleries and their sherried whiskeys. We're going to have another loan from the Winnipeg Whiskey Club from Stefan. This is Lafroig 16. So thank you, Stefan. It's great. We will have an Irish whiskey coming up in Glendalough Mizunara Oak Finish, I believe it's called. 13-year-old. And something I'm super excited about, which is this Glengarry 1999 wine cask matured. Very excited about that. Did you know that the Glengarry are 48%? Pretty nice. Well done. Good. Unchill filtered as well. All right, so let's get back into that and check out the nose with water now for the Rochfort Distillery Coriole White Port Cask. And I get more of those sumptuous raisins. And I get a little bit of milk chocolate coming through here. Milk chocolate, a little bit of creme brulee, creme brulee, and some cocoa. Something kind of like, what's that called? I forget that dessert with the mascarpone cheese, with the lady fingers, soaked in a little bit of Italian liqueur, dusted with the cocoa. What's that called? It's gone. Totally gone. It smells like that dessert. The cocoa. That creaminess. Beautiful. Okay. The palate now. A slight warm wood smokiness coming through here. More fruits. Nectarines now. Nectarines. No. Apricots. Apricots. This is still probably high 50%. And it is 100% perfect drinking strength. The 65.1 is great as well, but you have to take micro sips. When you add a bit of water, you can increase the size of your sip. You can keep it on your tongue a bit longer. The finish with water also is predominantly this apricot with that little bit of that dessert I was talking about. What is it called again? Okay, final taste here. The slightest little hint of Canada Dry ginger ale. Just sort of bubbling up there. Beautiful. Well, let's get on to the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Rochfort Distillery Coriole White Port Cask Truth Malters. The truth is the Chapter 4. What is that going to be, folks? It's going to be 93 out of 100. You heard it. 93 out of 100 is the WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Rochfort Distillery Coriole White Port Cask. Another view of that beautiful cork. Gorgeous, eh? Super heavy though, wow. You can check out the back of this, and I'm going to read this to you. Let's have a look first. Okay, let me read that. Truth Malters, Chapter 4. Truth Malters. The truth is, whiskey matured with the history of a century-old cask writes its own chapter. Yes, it sure does. Well, I've got a little bit left there. Cheers again, everyone. 93? It's really, really nice. Let's go with 94 out of 100. That's it. 94 out of 100. The new WhiskyWhistle whiskey score for Rochfort Distillery Coriole White Port Cask. This is the Canadian release from Truth Malters. Cask strength. Beautiful stuff. Check them out. If you're in Canada, Truth Malters, have a look at their website. Have a look at their Facebook group. And if you're in Winnipeg, check out the Winnipeg Whiskey Club. We meet the last Wednesday of every month. So mark that on your calendar. Check out the website, winnipegwhiskeyclub.com. All right. And if you're enjoying WhiskyWhistle, then subscribe to the channel. It's right there. You just click that and you subscribe, and then you hit the bell. Ding, ding. That way you're notified of the future Whiskey Whistles. And if you are interested in getting a little bit more involved with WhiskyWhistle, then jump into the WhiskyWhistle Patreon account, patreon.com/WhiskyWhistle, and join the WhiskyWhistle crew, okay? Take care, everybody. We'll see you for the next one. Bye.